morning, and welcome to the Mental Breakdown Morning Show. I'm Dr. Bernie Wilkinson.
And I'm Dr. Richard Marshall.
And it's a wonderful Election Day, Tuesday, November 8th.
It has finally happened.
It has finally arrived. It feels like this Election Day has been on its way for 4 years?
644 days.
That's 2 years.
Mm-hmm. You could have two, and since this campaign began, this election season began, you could have had 2 children while this campaign has been going on.
I don't know which would be more challenging, having 2 more kids or
That's how long we've been doing this.
Wow.
You could have had 2 kids.
That's unbelievable.
This is the longest campaign that we've ever had, the longest and most expensive campaign we've ever had. And as everybody knows, the most vitriolic and the most divisive and the most passionate and all those things. But the voters will decide today.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so that leads us, of course, to our topic for today, which is, it will be decided today. Our next president will be decided today, and whether you're voting for Hillary or Donald or a third-party person,
right.
Regardless, someone is going to win, which means that all the others are going to lose. And so what we're going to talk about today is not so much about who you should vote for or
Right.
Even, not necessarily even why you should vote, though everyone who's eligible should vote. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how you should handle winning and losing in a game that you really have no control over the outcome.
Yeah, there's so many lessons here because one of the things we should mention is that as far as getting out to vote,
right?
There's a number of discussions yesterday in black churches in particular, and people who were alive during the civil rights movement in the 60s. Many of them,
Right.
many of those leaders are dying off, but people who were involved in the civil rights movement in the 60s will say a lot of people gave up a lot
Right.
to get the right to vote
Right.
in our lifetime. And let's treasure that right. And Obama made an announcement yesterday. He said that in North Carolina, there were districts that were decided by 2 votes.
Right.
And
Right.
and he said, your vote does count.
Right.
Because if 2 votes, and he said that decided the election.
Right.
So yes, your vote does count. So I think it's important that if you haven't voted, this is the last day. You have until 7:00.
Yeah, I think it's until 7. So,
but the other point is, there's nothing you can do about it
Right.
after tonight. Okay.
Right.
And so it's like when you hear these athletic contests, a team loses and somebody gets beaten up in the parking lot,
Right.
or tires get slashed, or damage is done because your team lost. There's nothing you can do about it after
Right.
the game is over.
Right.
That's not the time to take out your anger or your frustration.
Right.
And you have to remember that our country is structured to withstand
right.
a lot of these things. And remember, we've had some terrible presidents.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, you go back through history, and some of these guys have not been, we revere them now through the lens of history, but these maybe weren't the best candidates who were running. So, but we survived. The country survives the Constitution. The Constitution was built to be flexible so that it could withstand these kinds of things. So,
right. And so, again, so the message, of course, is get out and vote and take that right to heart and get out there and do that. But whenever I think about Election Day, and I'm sure that you do the same thing, I always think back to a South Park episode. No, you don't think about that? I think about that. There was a South Park episode after the Obama-McCain
in 08?
In 08. And the episode was so it was perfect because for what we're talking about today, especially because of course the McCain supporters, they were down and sad and angry and all that, and then the Obama supporters were dancing in the streets and doing all this kind of stuff. But it was a perfect illustration of how not to respond to these kinds of situations. It was all extreme. It was all, people rioting and people destroying things because, we're just celebrating.
Lost. Or they had won.
Yeah, because they had won. And you want to remember that there is a dignity that we need to demonstrate, and an understanding that we need to demonstrate whether we win or lose.
Right.
We cast our vote. And while our vote does matter, as you just said, our vote matters, but the ultimate outcome depends on how everyone else votes as well.
Right.
And so we can't tie ourselves to a situation where we end up, affecting our lives and the lives of people around us and other people that we care about, their lives, simply because we lost a contest that we only had a small hand in.
Right.
You wouldn't. I think your analogy of with the athletic event is perfect, because you're not even on the field. You're
right.
there, and there's something to be said about fan support and that building motivation. So yes, fans being present the presence of fans has an effect on the performance of the athletes. But you're not on the field.
Right.
You're not making the catch. You're not making the throw.
Mm-hmm.
You're just there spectating. And so to get so angry and so frustrated or aggressive or gloating about it either way is really not a healthy way to approach it.
That's right.
So as you're casting your vote today, and we are all glued to our TV this evening to watch the outcome, and I guess it's usually by 11 o'clock or sometimes midnight here on the East Coast. We usually have some idea what the outcome is. As that outcome is read and we learn that, make sure that you're working to temper your responses either way, whether your candidate won or your candidate lost. Let's make sure that you temper your responses and instead look ahead as to, okay, so what can we do about this moving forward in a positive way that's going to help ourselves and help everybody else.
And, it's okay to be passionate about your beliefs, whatever your beliefs are. It's okay to be passionate about your candidate. It's okay to feel disappointment. Right. It's okay to feel elation, whatever your feelings are. But as we tell children, you just can't act out on them.
Right.
It's okay to be angry. You just can't punch holes in the wall. It's okay to be happy. You just can't throw water all over. And so I think that's the important thing, is that nothing wrong with emotion and passion. We should be passionate about our decisions, but we don't act out and become destructive or dangerous because of those feelings. And that's certainly how if you have children, that's certainly the lesson we want to teach them, is that, if you're talking to your children after the election, it should be something like, honey, this is the way our Constitution works. This is the way our country was designed to be. Now we have to decide, do you want to support this candidate or do you want to work against it? But if you want to get involved, there are ways to do it.
Right.
Get actively involved in the political system, in the political process.
Right.
Not by taking to the streets, but by becoming active in organizing and supporting.
Right. And the idea of, introducing conspiratorial beliefs and all of that, again, one of the things that we work hard to teach our kids, and what we try to recommend for a lot of our patients and families that we work with, and adults in general, is you want to gain what we call an internal locus of control, right? So you're responsible for your actions. You have decisions to make. You have choices to make. But when we say, well, my candidate lost because of this reason, well, it was rigged, it was this conspiracy, it was that conspiracy. What that's doing is that's saying, well, we have no control over these things because all these other people are working behind the scenes to plot against us and to harm us. And that external locus of control really takes away your feelings or your ability or your perspective of how you can manage your life, how you can live your life. And again, whether it's for you yourself or your child or whatever, we need to make sure that we're saying, I'm responsible for my part. My part was I cast my vote. I took the steps. I went and to the polling place and cast my vote. That was my responsibility. That was my duty. And now we wait and see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, then this is how I'll respond, and I will take action, as you said, by becoming a little bit more involved and a little bit more engaged.
Yeah.
Or if my candidate won, I'm going to be happy about that, and I'm going to continue to be involved, or I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing. But the visceral, the potential aggression,
anger.
And I don't think that we would have done this podcast, this topic, had we been doing the podcast back 4 or 8 years ago.
No.
Because this election cycle has been so wrought with just all of this stuff. I mean, it's just it's so divisive. That's why we felt like we really needed to have this podcast today, because we just want to remind you of your responsibility and appropriateness.
And I think another good model is Nelson Mandela.
Mm-hmm.
Nelson Mandela spent 30-some years in a South African prison for his political activities. He was released. He became president of the country, and what's the first thing he did? Amnesty.
Right.
For all the people who did that to him. Mm-hmm. We just went through a bad election campaign, but none of us spent 32 years in prison.
Right.
He spent 30-some years in prison and still found it in his heart to forgive people and to move forward. I think that serves as a good example as we move through today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
As Cokie Roberts said one morning, she said, I'm not so much worried about November 8th, I'm worried about November 9th.
Right.
What's going to happen on the 9th. And I think Nelson Mandela would be a good role model here.
Absolutely.
He suffered far more than any of us. So.
Right.
And he had reasons to seek vengeance, and he chose not to.
Right.
And I think that's helped South Africa come out of their troubles. So.
Absolutely. So
stay calm, stay calm, stay calm.
And yes, stay. I don't know what else to say besides stay calm.
Yeah.
We just have to
Don't
make
act
sure
out.
that we don't. We just stay in control of our reactions.
Right.
So, all right. So get out, vote, do your part.
Right.
And then you know what? Whatever happens, we'll pick things up tomorrow and we'll move on.
Right.
And I don't think that we're going to talk about the election tomorrow.
Because Wednesday is a day to respond to listeners, call-in listeners' email, and we may focus on that because the dust will not have settled by tomorrow morning.
Right.
So maybe we'll leave it alone.
Right. Yeah, we'll just leave that.
We have election fatigue anyway.
That's right.
Okay.
Hopefully there'll be a national sigh afterwards.
Yes.
It's over.
It's over. Let's all rest. And then let's get on with governing the nation.
Because we got Thanksgiving in 2 weeks. So we got to be ready for that.
We have Halloween candy to eat.
That's right. Yeah, don't eat Halloween candy tonight. Right. So, all right. So have a great day.
Yes.
Get out there, wear your sticker, and be proud of your taking part in this process. And then we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
All right.
Happy Tuesday.
Yes.